Gaeilge Weekly is a Learn Irish Online production. To find out more about LIO, check out the description down below. Hello, Eve. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, mods and what, Trinonama. How are we doing? Conas a Talmud. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. Me the buchas as of ag túnal isteacht mar is gnách. And I hope you're having a fantastic week or weekend. Tású lagam gohfuil an tachtan, no fiú an Déardaoin ag dul goma livse. You're listening to episode 125 of Gaeilge Weekly. Táúnis ag éisteacht le agran céad is a fé cuaig to Gaeilge Weekly. And Gaeilge Weekly, which I just checked this morning, rinne mé check margin, and we are at number 1 in the language learning podcast charts in Ireland. Tá sé giver hain sna cuairteacha the tangacha ólam in Éireann. So up there ahead of Coffee Break Spanish, Coffee Break French, learn Russian with this person, learn Polish with these guys, improve your English with whoever. Tá muide ag iver hain. We are at number 1, and that is thanks to you guys, Shane, Marielle, Irvsha, and you guys listening to our first episode of the year last week. Agus sibse ag éisteacht lenar géad agran I gabhils fiche sé an tachtan seo caite. So big thank you for that. Míle buchas a sin. And the last time I'll say it this year, on Dhearnach a bhfuil mé chun é seo a rá imlína. Gaeilge Weekly is coming out on Thursday this year. Tá Gaeilge Weekly ag teachtamach on Déardaoin imlína instead of Wednesday last year. Although it is still coming out on Wednesday over on Patreon. Tá sé fós ag teachtamach an géadín Patreon. But more about that later. Níos mó faoi sin níos Janie. The Christmas season is well and truly over here in Seville. Tá séisiir na nullag. Gandás creitníthe an so is Seville. As I mentioned last week, mar luí mé an tachtan caite, the 6th of January is as big a day here as anything else. Tá saoil lá de bhí anar chomh no fiú níos mó ná aon lá eile an seo. But it is interesting how quickly and how suddenly everything ends here. Tá sé simú céicomh tapi agus céicomh tuban agus a chreithníonn gachrad an seo. The 6th is such a big day, so much going on for different people. Tá séú lá mar lá an mhór agus a lán rudí ar siúl le haid daoine de friúla. But then the 7th, everyone's back to work. The Christmas lights are being taken down. Tá gach ar as ag obair. Tá siad ag tógáil síos na sáilte nullag, taking down the ice rink that's near my house. Ag tógáil síos an bhrinca oighear, cóngrach do ma cheach. And it all just kind of comes to an end pretty quickly. Unlike in Ireland, and tá si difriúil in Éireann, where it kind of happens bit by bit, a bit less so going into the new year, and then a 4th, 5th, 6th, and then people go back to school or university or whatever. Daoine fill ar asir an scóil, nor an old scóil, no pay rud atá ann. It's more of a gradual thing. Rud a harlíonn, písa le písa, de réir a chéile in Éireann, but in Spain it's quite a quick change. Is ahrú soch tapi a gandaus. But back to normality, back to life, back to reality. As the song says, mar dearan an tauron, and happy to going to be back to a schedule and just doing the normal stuff. Tá mis sás do chun a bheith arás le gnáthúh agus a bheith ag déanamh na gná rudaí. I also spoke last week, freshen bhí mé glarts an tachtan caite, about 2026, faoi 2026, and I guess how at this time of year and at the end of the previous year ag an amshods and lean agus ag deire na blina anuri, it's a nice time to kind of be thinking about, okay, what am I going to do this year? Is am jase hon a bheith samoin of foi, alright, cin rudí a bheits mé ag déanú imlína. What things do I want to do more of, or what things do I want to stop? Cin rudí a bhfuil mé ag éirí níos mú den rudí sin a dhéanamh, cin rudí a bhfuil mé ag éirí stopú. And well, I spoke about that last week, so I'm not going to go over it too much again. Agus mise ag labhairt faoi sin an tachtan caite agus ní mé ag éirí é sin a rá a rís. I did want to talk a bit about travel in 2026 and one or two plans I have in relation to travel. Tá mé géirí dart beginning faoi taistil agus plan nó go atá agam, especially one specific plan go háirithe plán amháin ar le atá agam. to travel and do a bit of a trip in 2026 an taistil agus thosaitheoirí I gábhíle is a bheith sé. Now, before I get into this, I want to make a little disclaimer. Is sometimes maybe on the podcast it seems like I'm always talking about, oh, I'm doing this, or the beids are an bud chréile tá sig súil goil miseg láirt fí, oh, tá méid déanamh an rud seo, or I live in Spain and I get to travel around Spain a lot, tá mé machóní sa Spáin agus tá an seansa go me lá taistil dhéanú timpeall na Spáine, or I go to this place or whatever. Two things there. Firstly, a bit like social media, dús an chéad rud, sais cosúil leis na mian speisialta. More than anything, this is a highlight reel of my life. It's not kind of the real thing. It's highlight reel atá agus na buach foinchi, the highlights of my life on Gaeilge Weekly. I suppose naturally enough on the show Gnáthleagan, and so I speak more so about the exciting highlights and best points and positive things being made large faoin na buach foinchi agus na rudí ispragúla agus na rudí níos dearfaí, the more positive things on the show. But really there's a lot of stuff as well that's a lot more boring, a lot of stuff that's negative and that I'm not doing too well with. Tá an rudí freisin atá dúilteach agus níl méid déanamh chomhmaith leis na rudí sin. So I'm always wary that the show might come off just me saying, look at my life and I'm doing all these things and it's cool. Fé chur ma héal hain agus tá méid déanamh na rudí seo agus tá seanna cool. It's very much a highlight reel, but more than that, I want to point out, níos mó na sin I want to say, I realise most people don't have the opportunities in life that I have. Tá go lá daoine agus an chuid is mód sa dhaoine níl le deisina acu mar atá agam. I'm going to be talking about going on a cool trip hopefully this summer now in a few minutes, but I don't want it to seem I'm saying níl mé géirí go bhfuil sé cosúil, go bhfuil mé grá, oh, anybody can go on a trip like this, or why don't we all do this, or I realise most people don't have the chance. Tá agam nach bhfuil an seansa go lá daoine. Most people listening probably either don't have the time or the flexibility with their work, níl an tám acu, nó an salúpacht lena gcuid ibre acu, or maybe don't have the money, no beidir níl an target acu. I'm not trying to say, oh, we're all in this position. I hope it doesn't come off the wrong way and that I'm out of touch in any way. Tá súil agam nach bhfuil sig súil ghuiil mé sais out of touch, and I realise how lucky I am. And yeah, I just like sharing my thoughts or ideas or plans this matlam. Mo chud smuointí, ma planning a range on the show, and so it's never kind of a, oh, look at this, look how cool my life is. Níl sé riamh cosúla, oh, féach chur ma héal agus féach céicomh cool agus atá na rudí a bhfuil mé ag déanamh the things that I'm doing. It's just more so me talking about whatever's on my mind. Níos mó éonrad just being made láirt faoi péiread atá mintin. And I do realise I'm very, very lucky. Tá agam agus tugam faoi deara go bhfuil an tá dearg So, just small disclaimer out the way, and I hope you understand what I mean by that. Just disclaimer beag as an malach agus tá súil agam go dtigeann sibh cad atá le rá agam an sin. So, for the last few years, the cúpla bliana anuas, I've always tried to do kind of one big trip a year. I go only if you make déanamh uireacht like cúpla bliana anuas. Thuras amháin mór a dhéanú in aine bliana. Last year I went to Italy for 2 weeks, another hui mé go dtí an idal feadh caiiciis. And people who've been listening to the show for a good while, daoine ag éisteacht leis an show le Talamh anuas. You guys remember that, and I did a few episodes out there. Seans go bhníonn siad sin agus rinne mé cúpla agrán de Gaeilge Weekly a muhan sin out in Bologna and Milan and Imola and one or two other places. So Bologna, Milan, agus cúpla áitseile. And the year before that, in 2023, I went to Greece for about 10 days. Hui mé go dtí an Ghaeilge feadh jet lá. Obviously, for those of you who are new listeners, or know, well, láithí daoine ag éisteacht don chéadúir, I live in Spain, so I'm kind of always travelling. So I'm going in between Spain and Ireland, being make dóileads or in Spáin agus Éire. But as well within Spain, I love travelling and going for a weekend to Cordoba or a day or two to Granada or a week to Cádiz or wherever. But I'm based here in Seville. Tá mé lonlaithe an seo is Seville. And this is where I live and spend most of the year, probably 300 days, if not more, being mé chathú. Hartar tríchéad lá in aine bliana nó beidir níos mó an seo is Seville. So last year, Italy, the year before Greece, Nuri an Idal and Lín Rivershin on Craig. And I was thinking, okay, well, obviously last few months I was thinking in the back of my head, like cúpla mí anús to make smuoinú in scene 2026, where would it be cool to go? Cannot will make Gary dull. And I really had a want to kind of leave Europe. I've never been outside of Europe in my life, near Mariv, Thief Muids in Europe in my hail. Thankfully, I've had a lot of chances and I've been very lucky to do a lot of travel within Europe. Weeks le dia bhí an chance na agam go dtí seo chun alán taiste líana tíbhaiste in Europe, but I've never really been outside of Europe. Near Mariv, Thief Muids in Europe. So I was thinking 2026 the year I'd love to go and do something. I know, listen, you can do it at any age. There's certain goal to one again, but I'm kind of thinking I'm 25 now, and who knows, maybe in a few years I'll have more of a settled life back home in Ireland. Peter, going my hail Buchanini's Rihushi, Suckriha in Éireann. And I might not be travelling as much or doing big trips, or I might not be able to. Chance nach my man own if I have a family or whatever, or payrod of own. So, I should take the opportunity while I have the time and the opportunity, agus an tám agam inis, agus na jeisina agam inis. Why not go somewhere a bit different rather than just going again to Italy, which in itself again is really cool. On Dulgty and Idal or Greece, Craig, super cool. And I'm again very aware there might be loads of people listening who would give anything to get to go to those places for a week. Chance mag will alanti ni éisteacht agus chorchoch siad einrod hundul gtí náit na sin seachtain. So I'm really grateful to get to those places, but I thought, you know what, let's go somewhere outside of Europe and do something cool. Rachim adát aigen Thief Muids in Europe agus rud aigen cool, just for a week or 10 days or for seachtain no death loss. So I was thinking about different places. We make smuoinú faoi áitina Iarfriúla over the last few months, like cúpla mí anús. So at first I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to go to China? Nach make sé cool hundul gotí an tín, because it's so different. I'm playing a lot of snooker nowadays, and China is a very big country for snooker. Been on snooker on the war, Satine, and it'd be cool to go out there, play snooker for a week or two, and eat all the Chinese food there is to eat out there, agus an bíasínach an muhan sin, and just to go somewhere really random and different, dul áit an around the mach on it to probably somewhere where no one has English either. Áit an nachhfuil mBéarla ag an chuid smód so gaine, and it would just be a real adventure. Ashtar ceart a bheith ann. And then I was thinking, but what about going to somewhere like South America? Ceirt faoi dul gáit an cosúil America yes, because I have the language. I've lived in Spain for 5 years. Tá sanga agam, tá mé machóni sa Spáin le 2 bliana anús, and going there, I'd probably have an even better experience than most people. Ag dul an sin chance ma go méich aspris fiú níos fearr agamsa ná mar bheith ag a lán daoine, because I have the language and would be able to speak to more people and access more things. Bheith mé an labhairt níos mó daoine agus níos mó rudaí a dhéanamh. But then I thought, what? Over the last few years, I've lived so much of my life in my second, or really actually my third language, le cúpla bliain nús, tá mé tar éis an méid sin ama a chathú ag ginú gachrod I ma Déardaoin ma chríú theanga. Of course, I do a lot of stuff in Irish for my work, and then I speak Spanish most of the time here in Spain, being make labhairt Spanish ó chuid is mó den náman seo sa Spáin. And listen, I'm comfortable speaking Spanish. I suppose I'm fluent, whatever that means. Tá mé líofa, níl sagam cad a cílíonn sé sin, but I have no problem speaking and listening to Spanish and chatting away for someone for a few hours, or with someone for a few hours, like labhairt or for cúpla or le duine, no problem at all, and can understand whatever's being said. Tá mé an gachrod no beag nach gachrod a hiiscint. But one thing I noticed for sure is nowadays when I'm back in Ireland, or the odd time when I go to the UK, nuair tá mé ras in Éireann no fiú orintha nuair a haim go dtí an rích daontithe, is that I'm much more sociable, whatever the word is in English, speisialta as Gaeilge in Irish. I'm much more sociable and kind of confident with small little interactions. So tá mé bhád níos speisialta agus muinine le few just interactions beaga. You know, the small things of going into the shop and having a chat with the person behind the till. Ag dul isteach go siopa agus ag labhairt leis an duine tíomhthírt an till. Or being in a bar and chatting to someone who's on their own, you know, ag dul isteach go teach torb agus ag labhairt le duine atá ina éonar or whatever it might be, that small talk thing, or stopping someone on the road asking for something, ag stopú den éigean ar an móthir ag cur cheistar who faoi rud éigean, you know, directions or whatever, troracha no peirud atá ann. And I find I don't have that as much in Spain. Listen, I can do that. I'm not too shy while I'm here. Tá mé an é sin dhéanú níl mé ro chúthal agus mé an seo. But I've kind of thought for a while, wow, I think I'd do really well going somewhere where I could speak English and be able to meet a lot of people and create a lot of adventures for myself by doing that. Maybe it's due to my job as well. Chance gohfuil si ceangail si le mo fust chomh because I have to speak for a living, and I have to, you know, when you're on a podcast and you're thought to wear footcraily, you really enunciate things and you get more confident at speaking and expressing yourself. Find to níos muine ag a chur who he in the núl and chatting about whatever, ag láirt faoi péród, or storytelling as well, ag scéalaíocht. So maybe it's because of that as well, and maybe it's because I'm having to do it in Spanish so much that when I get to switch back to English in Ireland, mar gheall goin méid déanú an the chuid séanama a Spanish nuair a haim gohéireann agus a riam go Béarla, it's easy because it's like a weight off your back. Tá so le meáchan imithe ó the grin. And I thought, you know what, 2026, wherever I'm going somewhere where English is the native language. Govid's fi sé péát a haim tá méid dul áit éigean óil an Béarla acu mar an chéad theanga. And I know obviously you could travel around Europe and use English thosagam gur féid leat taistil timpeall na Europa agus an Béarla úsáid, but it's not the same. Níos mar an rud céine, for me anyway, dumsa. You know, firstly, you'll meet a lot of people across Europe who don't speak English or don't speak good English. Tá tú an bula le lán daoine timpeall na Europa, nachhfuil Béarla acu, no nachhfuil Béarla láidir acu. But even if you went somewhere like Sweden or Finland where the level of English is quite high, if you must rud ag déan tú go dtí an Linn nó an Túlán áit éigean ó a level Béarla láidir acu, there's still for me a kind of barrier up between you and the other person. Fós an sin does eis barrier no balla hús idir tusa agus an duine eile. It's still not the same. Or, you know, if you met someone on the street in Stockholm and he said, you know, let's go for a drink, and you went into the bar, okay, you might be speaking English together. Má bhúlann tú le duine éigean in Stockholm agus dearann sé, you know, rachi ma just teach sa teach torvanna on rud éigean óil, and you're speaking English, that's all fine. But then you get into the bar, he orders for the both in Swedish, and him and the barman are chatting in Swedish. Tá sesin agus an lad an sin's teach torvan ag láirt sa súlanis. And then you're kind of a bit disconnected from it. And you're always speaking to someone in their second language. That we go nig láirt the duine in a Déardaoin. So for me, I said it's not the same. I want to go somewhere where English is the first language. You know, I sound really like I don't know, somebody who doesn't want to integrate it all or make an effort. It's not that at all. I've learned Spanish after living here. I don't use much English here. I don't use any English on the streets. Ní bhíonn mé pointú saw just ein Béarla ar na sráidena an seo. I've learned Italian even though I've never lived there. So I'm not like that. Tá na dálas fólamtha agam cé nach raibh mé riamh I mo chónaí an sin. So níl mar sin, for people listening for the first time, I'm not one of those people who kind of just goes to Benidorm and lives the same life they would live at home. A hain go Benidorm agus bíonn an sail céin acu mar bheith arás an éireann, just with a bit more sun, just the níos mó green of very integrated life in Spain in general. Tá sailsach integrated agus sailsach Spáineach agam an seo for fairly kind of Spanish life in a lot of ways a Lán Valley éagsúla. But I've not really had the chance to kind of do that. I've do a bit of solo travel. I should have mentioned that. All these trips I do, na thuras seo a bhín méid déanú, I do them solo. Bhín méid déanú na thuras seo I ma éanair. So obviously you're dependent on yourself to meet people, start conversations with people, to make an effort. Chun dhéanamh chun córáite ó hosú le daoine agus chun aithne a chur ar dhaoine. So then, of course, where to go in the English-speaking world? The main choices, obviously New Zealand, Australia, but New Zealand and Austral, but a long way away. And if you're going there, you want to go for 3 weeks, probably 2 or 3 weeks to justify it. But tá dul an sin, tá dul ar caiiciis trí seachtain really, hon údar a bheith agat. And also I like to go somewhere where there's a lot of history and culture. And obviously those places are young countries as tíortha óga iad na háiteanna sin. So not really as interested in more in simagam. Still be really cool to go. Bhíodh sé fear cool an dul, but said no, that's not for me this year. Then I thought, well, the UK, but I hope to live in Ireland again in the future, and hopefully then being so close to Súlagam go mai me I machóní éis sin éireann sa todhchaí agus san sin. By chance nágam chun aithne níos fearr a chur ar an ríoch Déanta. I'll hopefully have a better chance then to get to know the UK and England a bit better. And I've been plenty of times before and wanted to go somewhere I've never been. Bhí mé géirí agus tá mé ag géirí dul áit nó rá mé rive. Then obviously you have the US, ar nóíonn sin tá na Stát agat. But not to get into this topic ní, chun dul isteach sa topic seo. But with all the nonsense going on in the US and the horrible things that are happening there week in, week out, on scaffolds ar siúl san Stát agus na rudí uafásacha ag tarlú gach, then I just don't feel comfortable going to the US. Ní bhfuil or ní bhfuil hóhin, I wouldn't feel comfortable ag dul go dtí na Stát. And that's all I'll say about that sin on rud one a dearhan faoi sin. And part of me as well just doesn't want to give them the satisfaction. Níos mó na aon rud chuid seems sa níl mé géirí an satisfaction nó an údar ar thabhairt dómh, by getting a visa. I don't think you need a visa, but getting your passport stamped and going in and spending money there at cabhrú and sin. But anyway, we won't get into it. Ní bhfuil chun dul isteach is sin. And then I thought, what about Canada? An sin bhí mé smaoine chuir faoi Canada. And then I thought about a little corner of Ireland tucked away in the North Atlantic. I've robbed that phrase from someone, I think who's from Newfoundland, and that is what I was thinking of, Newfoundland, or as it's called in Irish, probably the only place in Canada that has a proper Irish name. Seans má gúil sé mar an taobh áit I Gceanada le anam ar na cheart, Talamh an Éisc, the land of the fish, Newfoundland. And that's the title for this week's episode as well, Sin an Teidgeal ar an Bud Chreile an Teachtain seo. Now, a lot of people listening will probably know something about Newfoundland. Seans má go bhfuil ólas éigean ag neart daoine ag éisteacht ar Newfoundland, agus I think the pronunciation that's correct. Ceapan go bhfuil an fuamnúin sin ceart, Newfoundland. It's not Newfoundland. The emphasis isn't on found, níl an béim ar found, but Newfoundland, I think that's more or less right. Ceapan go bhfuil sé sin ceart, nó beamnach ceart. And the history is amazing. There's loads of videos and podcasts you can watch about it. Tá lán fí seán níos pud chrailtí go fréid leat fécintarthú faoi Newfoundland. And again, hopefully I'll be doing a few myself when I go there in the summer, because that is the place I'm planning on going. Le cúna dé is féidir lumsa cúpla ceann a dhéanamh ire an tairí nuair a haon man sin, mar sin an áit a bhfuil mé ag dul, nó tá planana agam chun dul. So I have plans to go. I haven't booked it yet. Níl sé curtha in áirithe agam fós. But Newfoundland has a huge Irish influence, possibly more than any other place in the world. While you can talk about the Irish influence in Boston and Chicago and New York, and rightly so, tá an láirt faoi tionchar éireannach atá ann na Mastún nó Áireach Chicago, there isn't really still an Irish accent in there left. There's, of course, the Boston accent, for example, is influenced massively by the Irish accent. And blasta acu in Mastún, it has a huge influence that chunk more ó éireann, and certain words that would be used to things, but in general it's its own kind of accent. And the same thing in Newfoundland, but it's a lot more marked, and in some areas of Newfoundland the accent is essentially a Waterford and Wexford accent. In lá náitna timpeall Newfoundland, especially on the Irish Loop in the Avalon Peninsula, the easternmost part of the province, an chuid níos mó an taobh orthair. It's in Provence. It is essentially an accent from Waterford to Wexford. Tá sé beagnach mar bhlas ó Port Larga nó Loch Lomond. And again, there's loads of videos and podcasts you can check out on that, so I won't go too deep into it. But not just the accent. I think it's wrong to just point out the accent, but the history, the way they live their life, a lot of their culture, the music. So much of it is so similar to Ireland. An chuid smóide nó chuid mhaite tá sé an chasúil leis an gcultúr, leis an ceol, leis an teanga mar atá agin in Éireann. It's amazing from what I've seen in terms of the pictures, the views and the scenery, don tíorchach ars na ráirchanna do chreidsa an sin, the landscape and the views. And it's somewhere, of course, where English is the first language. mBéarla acu mar an chéad theanga. It's somewhere that has a massive connection to Ireland. Ceangailt Ulmhór acu le hÉireann. It's somewhere that's on the coast. That's always important to me. And as someone who grew up on the coast, mar chun a dá san níos an ggósta agus chosáirge, tá sé sin tábhachtach domsa. And it's somewhere really beautiful from everything I've seen. Áiteagan go hálainn as gacrad tá feici agam. And I've seen other people who've gone over, and the way, this might sound a bit selfish, but the way the Newfoundlanders treat the Irish and the welcome they give other Irish people who go over there and fáilte a churn siad ribh na hÉireann ag eile atá tar éis dul an sin. I mean, not many Irish go there, but some Irish go there nowadays. But it's mainly Irish who went, I think, in the 17th or 18th century. Lán Éireann a hui an sin sa seachtú nó ochtú hísteig. Pre-famine, I believe, ribh an chuirt the mór. But obviously more people went as the years went on. Hui a lán daoine agus na blianta ag leanúint aráig. And nowadays there's not many Irish who go to live. Ní cheapan go bhfuil mór an Éireann ag dul an sin. On the in a gcónaí an sin, some Irish go over to visit, like I'll hopefully be doing, being cúpla éireannach ag dul an sin. An cuairt a thuirt an áit, mar a bheits mise im lína, hopefully, le cúna dé. But the Newfoundlanders seem to have a huge affinity and huge knowledge of their own heritage. Tá a lán ólas agus a lán aithne ag na Newfoundlanders agus na daoine as Talamh an Éisc an oidhreacht atá acu. The heritage that they have and where their ancestors are from and are still so closely connected to the culture that she'd cove congur leis an gcultúr fós. And because of that, that's one of the big reasons I want to go and really explore it. And not just go for a holiday, ní amháin dul like lei in the Sierra, but also hopefully to do a few podcasts out there. Like cúna hun cúpla podchéile a dhéanamh an muin sin. I don't think there's many Irish speakers. Ní cheapan go bhfuil mór an Gaeilge an muin sin, because it was mainly people from Waterford and Wexford who went, and not many people from the Gaeltachts. Níos mó na in Radella, tháinig na daoine ó Port Larga agus Loch Lomond agus níomhát an eile. But I'd love to do interviews even in English and put them out on Gaeilge Weekly with different people out there who know a lot about the Irish connection, the Irish story. Bhfuil aithne wa acu scéal na hÉireann agus cultúr na hÉireann an sin. So that is the plan. As I said, I've not booked sin a plan, mar dúirt mé níl sé chur an óirí hagam, but hopefully I shall be going to Newfoundland, leaving Europe for the first time in my life ag fágal na Europa don chéadúir i héal for about a week or 10 days in June. Or fa seachtain nó 10 lá i mí meitheamh. I've already checked. The flights I'm looking at do not clash with Ireland's potential World Cup games. Tá seic déint agam hána féin, ní bhaid na hitseiltí ó bhfuil mé ag féchan sarthú at the same time ag an am céanna mar na chluichí a bheits éire ag imirt sa chur Déanta sa soccer. If we qualify, of course, it's still a big if. Más rud é gáilíonn mud, chance má nach bhfuil mud chonéis sin í have a good chance we're not going to do that. Still have to win 2 games in March fós caiimiid gá chluithe a bhuacans mí mórta. But if we do, más rud é go stricken muds an World Cup. I am not missing those games because I'm only 25. Well, I'm 25, I shouldn't say only. Dá mé fé and I've never seen Ireland play a World Cup game. Níl cluithe imirthe ag an feici agam sa chur Déanta in soccer, at least sa soccer arenas. And of course, it'll be on in Canada, the US and Mexico. I think Ireland's games, 2 of them will be Mexico, 1 of them the US. Chluithe in Mexico, cluithe san Stáit again, if we get there, main much on sin, still a big if. But Yeah, I'm not missing those for the world. Ní mé an cailomach na cléiche sin le haid éon rud. And there are direct flights to St. John's, which is the capital in Newfoundland. Tá eitiiltí díreach St. John's ó príomhchathair príomhchathair Newfoundland. From Europe, there are two. There's one from Gatwick and there's one from Dublin. Ceann one ó Bhlaclaí agus ceann one ó Gatwick. So that's fun. Looking forward to it. If anyone has any info or has been, Mataín Olas again dinner, or if anyone's listening in Newfoundland, Mataín dinner Gaeilge Tíbhaiste to Newfoundland, please give me a message, Cur Teacht or Twigum, and let me know, or anyone has been, or whatever it might be, ein dinner around no ein dinner. We'll explain if we dull, Beiger, on Sarah Shaw, and anybody thinking of going this summer, give me a message, give me an email, liam.learnirishonline@gmail.com, or an Instagram message at learnirishonline. So that is it, guys. Jenny, thank you very much, as always, for listening this week. Gurmila Magi, as Éisteacht on Teachtain Seo. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast and hope you enjoy everything we do here at Learn Irish Online. Thosaitheoirí gohfuil sibh buint tanamh as an bud chréile agus gohfuil sibh buint tanamh as gachrúd a dhéanamid an seo Learn Irish Online. I feel like I was maybe speaking a bit fast today. Moille grame ag labhairt beidir beganín ro happy in your bush. Anyway. Bit by bit, pizza la pizza, getting better at this podcasting crack after 125 episodes. Ag airí níos fearr ag an podcasting ag an creilú tar éis céad is a 25 agran. Goodbye and God bless, slán agus beannacht.